How funny that the song is more together than alone, and yet we're in isolation. But here's the thing about that. Are we alone really? Are we really isolated? Am I really isolated from Kelly? No, not really. I recognize there's that in him and that in me, that when we realize who we are, we're there, we're together. We are more together than ever being alone. We can't possibly be alone. So I want to look at some of these lyrics. One by one, we are awakening. I love this. One by one, we are awakening. Two by two, we are remembering, ascending into one love. And I love that later she sings, letting go of blame and shame. One of the things that we do when we get to be adults is to start to look back at our lives. And very often, I can tell you as a counselor, very often people have things that they need to work out from their mother, things that they need to work out from their father. So there's that high level of energy between child and mother, child and father, and a lot of those things, blame comes into play. So when I hear this song and I think, letting go of blame and shame, I had a lot of shame as a child growing up. I was not my mother's choice of person. She really, my mother was this gorgeous, vivacious, she looked like Elizabeth Taylor. She was so beautiful with a body that could just stop traffic, and often did while we were in the car. She was this amazing force of life, but she was so much female woman that she needed that man like my dad, the cop, the football playing cop father. So, along comes me. Now, my older brother came first, and he was just like my dad, and like the three of them had this great bond. And then I came along, I was like, hi, good luck figuring this out. And my mother, and I have a story for the end of this talk, but my mother and I were as close as you could possibly be, in that she was a bit of a tormentor to me, because it was always like, Jimmy, she's never said butch it up, but that was the subtext. It was like, Jimmy, be a boy, be a man. Come on, put those dolls down. They're your cousins. I want them. No, put them down. So she had a hard time with that. And she came from this very conservative family. She had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and my grandfather was in the senatorial race. Thank God he didn't win. Thank you, Kevin, for laughing. Growing up, there's a lot of blame and shame that I could look at. And many of you may have that. And, it's Mother's Day. You may look back on your mother and think, I have so much that I haven't worked out. But you know what? Figure it out. Because at the end of the day, blame and shame and all that regret and all that stuff you have, it's doing nothing but holding you back. That's it. So today, besides celebrating our mothers, let's let them off the hook a little bit. They were just doing what they could do, figuring out the best they could. Look at Kelly's mother, dressing up as a man and running around town. I mean, that had to be shameful for him. Just kidding. I mean, we got to let them off the hook. I know my nephew here, Daniel, he's got a grandmother that he has to celebrate today, which sometimes he lovingly calls some wonderful words. And we have to let her off the hook. We have to let them all off the hook and let them just have been who they were. Love only. Forgive what? Everything. And remember who we are. I remember who I am. I remember who they are. But from the highest level. So that's the first thing I want to talk about today. So I love this. More together, the soul untethered. You could use this song for the untethered soul too. That book too. As we walk each other home. As we walk each other home. At the end of every Spirit Breath meditation, I say welcome home. And what I mean by that is, welcome back to that place in you where you are safe and sound, where you know who you are. So I think all of us have the opportunity during this beautiful isolation to find home base again, to remember where that is. And my favorite lyric in the whole song is, a colored brush in every hand as we paint a rainbow across the land. I just love that idea. Do you realize you have that colored brush in your hand? And guess where that brush is used mostly? In the words that come out of your mouth. So as we celebrate Mother's Day today, and I think about I used to kid my kids growing up about the way my mother would talk to us because she was a feisty little Irish woman. And she would say things like, Jimmy, I am going to break your legs. Now, she wasn't really going to break my legs. She wasn't like a mafia mother. But she would say things like that, you know? We'd say, Mom, what's for dessert? She goes, dessert the table. That's the way my mother would talk. I mean, seriously. And she had all of these things. And I'm like so nice. I would tell my kids, I'd be like, this is what my mother would say to me. And they'd always go, come on, really? Did she really talk like that? Yes. My mother really talked like that. So she painted an amazing paintbrush all over, amazing colors all around me. But one of my favorite stories about my mother is during football season. Now, I wasn't going to play football because I had had a heart. Wow. In case you didn't hear that at home, my husband's here today. There was a big laugh from way back there. He's social distancing. Try social distancing your voice. So anyway, I wasn't going to play football because I had I'm born with a heart defect. And that's the reason. And because I was, like so tiny and skinny and there's no way I was playing football. So what I would do, my dad was the head of the football team and my mother was the head of the cheerleaders. Well, I mean, I could go right into my sissy boy show, but the truth is I loved the cheerleaders. I loved their pom-poms. I loved their dresses. And I just loved being on the cheerleading squad. So, while all the butch guys in the neighborhood that were all not really friends of mine, but my age, were all out on the football field getting dirty. And who wants to get dirty? They're all out there getting muddy and dirty and stuff. And I'm over in the corner with these pom-poms. And I remember the one time my dad came over and said to my mother, within my earshot, I'm standing there playing with these girls with the pom-poms, learning those great things, And I heard my dad say, Dolores, can you please take those pom-poms off of him? And I hear my mother say so loud, if he wants to play with pom-poms, he's going to play with pom-poms. And my dad walks away and she turns around and she goes, put him down. Talk about mixed messages. It's like she knew the right thing to say, but then she was like, it's pissing me off too. Put him down. Anyway, a colored brush in every hand. And it's about what you are saying, how you're communicating it. So the title of my talk today is All Together Now. Isn't that a great? Thank you, Alex, for that. All together now. So I want to do something. Heather, come on up here. Margaret, come on up here. Jason's not going to come up here. Hurry up, Margaret. I got a short talk here. Okay, ready? Yes. I'm going to get my mic. So I want to just do this little thing. So I want to sing, you are my sunshine, right? Okay, so here's the melody. You are my sunshine. So find your harmony. No, okay, let me hear your harmony. Go. You are my sunshine. Keep going. Sunshine, my only sunshine. Great, and yours would be?
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
You are my sunshine. So you've heard all three parts, right? So that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Right? And that sounds pretty. It's high, it's pretty. And the melody's nice. But music happens when we come together, when it's all together now. And you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Do you know the second verse? The other night, dear, while I was sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I held my head and cried. Beginning. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Thank you, ladies, for helping me. So There you go. That just shows you. It sounds great when Heather sings. It sounds great when Margaret sings. It sounds fabulous when I sing. But if you put us together, when we all come together, we make music. When we come together, we actually enhance what we do naturally. It just exponentially, and that's what life is all about, constantly, exponentially growing and expanding. So, Mother's Day. There's a mother vibration. Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, she said this: "My mother handed down a respect for possibilities and a will to grasp them." And she talks a lot about everything that she is in life. It's because her mother constantly told her, here's what's possible for you. Robert Browning said, motherhood, he said this, he said, motherhood, all love begins and ends here. Now, in the science of mind, we teach the mother energy, the feminine energy. And I get into a lot of trouble when I teach that feminine part of the teaching tool of the science of mind, because the masculine is on top and the feminine is in the middle, and on the bottom is the body, the child. So it's masculine, feminine, in case you all got that wrong yesterday, masculine, feminine, body. So what it means is the creative energy, the masculine energy, inputs all of the ideas. Now, here's the thing. We're all masculine and feminine. I am a perfect example of that. We are all the masculine energy and the feminine. So we're the father energy and we are the mother energy. But here's what's so great about motherhood. The masculine energy, you can have all the freaking ideas you want, all the desires you want, but without the feminine, without the middle, without that receptive energy that only says yes. Now, I'm not saying it's a servant, although they do call it that. I'm not saying that the servant can only do yes. It is that impersonal, impartial, perfect, beautiful, creative substance that brings everything to fruition, brings everything, the body of life, right where it needs to be. So we celebrate that today. We celebrate that within ourselves, that there is something in us that is prepared to, ready to, at any moment, say yes. We also talk about this thing called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning. Now, let me just tell you what this is. Inductive reasoning means that you are figuring it out. You figure it out by the facts. Deductive reasoning means that you allow, you come from an already established premise of yes, I know exactly what to do here. So a deductive, that's God. That is the God, the Christ consciousness. So the mother energy is the highest energy possible that knows only truth and that knows only to allow whatever comes through to come to a beautiful fruition. That's what we teach in the science of mind. So on Mother's Day, we should be celebrating this energy, but not just this energy found in the female species. This energy found in everyone, everywhere, which is why we say Father, Mother, God. And it's very interesting. Yesterday, as I was doing, putting the final screws into the test, Kevin was proofing it for me. And there are in the test, there's a lot of his, her. And Kevin asked me to, he said, James, you should change that to her, his, or she, he. It's always he, she, him, her, his, hers. He said, I think you should turn that around. And I said, and first I said, I don't have time. But then I did. I just changed it all. And I looked at it and I went, of course, that makes perfect sense. But we even say Father, Mother, God. Father, Mother, God. Maybe it's Mother, Father, God. Mother, Father, God. Father, Mother, God. We got to talk to him about that song. Oh, he does sing Mother, Father. I sing Father, Mother, God. So we have this beautiful day today to celebrate, guess what, in you? The creativity that you are. So I do have a story for you about my mother, another one, my closing story, and it's this. When I was a little boy, I was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old. I had to be 4 or 5 maybe. Because there comes a time, I had a brother that was a year older than me, and he was already going into first grade. And there was a whole year when the only people home were me and my mother. And so I guess I was 4 turning 5. And every single day, in the middle of the afternoon, my mother would turn all the lights down in the house. She'd make herself a cup of coffee and make me a hot chocolate. And we would go sit in front of the TV. All lights would be off. And remember, it was a black and white TV back then. And it would like open like this and the screen would come on. And we would sit for 1 hour and watch The Thin Man, which was her favorite show on TV, every single day. And I remember, I have goosebumps right now, just remembering this. And I remember feeling that my entire world was safe, that everything was about me. Clearly, I've taken that into my life. It's all about me. But that's how she made me feel. And her arm was always around me, pulling me in really close to her. And we would just sit there and she would sip her coffee. I still have the smell of the coffee. And I remember that feeling of, I have you, you are safe, and you're mine. I gave birth to you. You are mine. We are one thing. So in this month of oneness, that memory of her really supersedes all other memories I have of my mother. And I have some pretty awful memories of my mother because she had a very hard time with alcohol. So I have some awful memories of that. And I have memories of her death. She died a very violent death from cancer. But they all have a perfect place in my life. But that memory, I think that's what brings me to this point in my life today, to standing here in front of you, that I can speak oneness, I can teach oneness, I can understand oneness, I can live from oneness, because I felt it there probably for the first time consciously. I remember when I had to go to first grade and they were getting me dressed to go to first grade and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Why would I want to leave here? Why would I want to go to school? And I tortured my mother because back then you walked to school by yourself because school wasn't that far away. It was right down Charles Street, make a right on Erdrich Street, and then left on Walker, and you walk into St. Bernard's School. So you'd go by yourself. And I can't tell you how many times I would walk down Charles Street, she'd be on the doorstep, and I'd be like, bye, turn onto Erdrich, back down a back alley, and just sit there and wait till somebody figured out I didn't show up at school. I did this all the time. It drove me, I can think of how many times my mother had to walk me all the way home. I'd still get to watch The Thin Man because she wasn't going to stop that no matter what happened. So I ask you to think about, find something in your life, some relationship with your mother, grandmother, your mother influence. Find the good. Find that one thing that your mother gave you that perhaps you've forgotten that she gave you. Because when I was putting this talk together, I was thinking, what's the one thing she gave me that maybe I forget? I kid about her all the time, and it's that you're safe. You are one of me, which is what Ernest Holmes says at the end of his life. I am one of God. You are one of God. So think about that as you move through this beautiful day on Mother's Day. Ernest Holmes, when he talks about the mother energy, the feminine energy, he brings up a story, and I don't remember which book this is in, but he brings up a story about his own mother. And he talks about the day that his mother took the children out of Christian school, took them out of church, because she was sitting in church and she was listening to this minister go all fire and brimstone about how sinful we are and how dark it is and how we have to fight to overcome all the darkness that we are. And in my memory in this book, I remember it being that she literally took the two kids by their hands, and she was right at the front of the church. She turned and walked them out down the middle aisle and said, "This is not what God is. We do not believe this." And that was it for her and that church. And even any church, it actually took Ernest Holmes and Fenwick, his brother, to come back to church to figure it out. But they got that message from their mother. That's not what God is. And then they went on a journey. All right, if that's not what God is, what is God? And that is the mother energy inside of me that constantly says to me, if that's not what God is, what is God? And that is a journey I think I'll be on for the rest of my life. I don't exactly know what this thing called God is. I know it's not what I've been taught. And I know it's not out there somewhere. And I know it's in here, and I can teach it. I can rationalize it. I can make it scientific. I can do all of that. But at the end of the day, I still sit right where I am at the center of my being, right there on that couch on Charles Street, sitting with my mother and thinking to myself, this is what God is. It can't be anything else. It has to be this display of love, this amount of safety, this spaciousness to be whoever I want to be. That came from my mother. Ernest had it come from his mother. So I leave you today with just asking you, what did your mother give you? What did she bring you? What nugget, to use Margaret's term, what nugget, juicy little nugget, I'm channeling Margaret, not that I channel Eric. What little nugget did your mother give you? You know, what did Sue give you, Daniel? What did Barbara give you, Matthew? What did Barbara give you, Kevin? What's there that will never go out? What light moved from this mother to this son to this daughter? Because there is a light in you and a light in me that is the one light. And it travels through all bodies, all species, all trees, as it says in Heather's song. And when we can get in touch with that, when we can celebrate that, and today's the day to celebrate it, and when we can put a face on it, thank you, Dolores, for making me the man I am today, for allowing me to be the man I am today. I celebrate her, and I celebrate her mother, Margaret, who was really fierce and vicious, but she brought a lot too to the world, as did the other Margaret. Both grandmothers were Margarets. Margaret Mellon, who gave me my love of cooking, who gave me my love of creativity. That grandmother used to let me dance around the living room with her quilt around me, you know, as though it were a cape. And I remember my grandfather, her husband, saying, don't let him do that. She bought me dolls. She saw it. She knew. And she just bought me dolls. And she said, let's keep it here at my house, so that I knew where I could go find a doll. So many memories just rushing through me right now. But I'm going to leave you with this. There's a place in you and a place in me. There's a place in your mother and a place in my mother, where we are all in the same place. There is a breathtaking nugget of truth that has come forth from mothers to children throughout all of eternity. Today, spend a little bit of time today, honor that. Honor her. Could be your birth mother, it could be an adoptive mother, it could be a mother figure. Just find out what was that nugget, and then let that expand. Let that be how we remember that which came before us. Namaste.